Hi YouTube, this is Felicia with Bible Scraps, and in this video I am going to show how I created these lovely book covers for a special journal that I am working on. Now this is so super cool because most of these images are from magazines. I used a magazine called Ebony. It's the premier magazine for African Americans. First issue, I think, was published in the 50s. So I have taken images from magazines from the 50s to the early 80s. You are looking at some of the pages that I have ripped out of some magazines. I am choosing the images I want to use, and I tell you, when I picked up these magazines the year before last, it brought back so many memories to flip through these magazines. I tell you, a lot of the images are of products that we used growing up. And so, what I should have done when I first got these magazines, I should have categorized the pages I ripped out. I didn't do that. I am looking for a vintage Noxzema magazine or page from a magazine. Oh, you guys, check out that royal crown. I used to use that growing up. Well, I remember seeing a vintage Noxzema ad. I still use Noxzema, so I am on the hunt looking for that ad. You see these clear, large envelopes. I have several of those with different pages from the magazines, different clippings. I tell you, I cannot describe the joy that I get from these magazines and from these clippings. Did you guys, do you remember Be a Model? Barbizon School. Oh my goodness, I remember that. I wanted to be a model. I think we all wanted to be models, right? But these images, they bring such fulfillment, especially for me, because I don't have a lot of childhood pictures of me or from my parents or siblings. Now, I think this magazine is from the early 50s. Check out that Kool-Aid ad. And that's a 7-Up ad. Isn't that so super cool? And there's a Kmart ad. And you probably didn't see the roller skating ad, but that was popular growing up. I will use that image. There's one Noxzema ad, but this is the one. It took me over an hour to find that ad. And I tell you, after I found it, it wasn't what I thought. I wanted to have a Noxzema, my ad with a Noxzema container a little larger. Now what I'm doing here, I've taken a water brush and I'm applying water around the edge because I want to feather tear this. The thing is, you need to feather tear while it's still wet. So I had to apply water again. And you could see how it easily separates. You can use scissors, and you will see me use scissors in this video, but I like how the feathered tear looks. So I want to take my time, and now I'm just pulling apart to make it look more defined around the edges. I'm cutting out images. These images are great for die cuts. I will also cut out phrases and words. So I'm using these are fabric scissors. I recently did a video reviewing different scissors, and I love those scissors on paper. Now what's interesting here, this particular print, the water just wants to sit in droplets. And you will see me, you probably couldn't see that, but the water just slid right off. This print yielded the same result, and so I just used my scissors to cut those images. I absolutely love this image here. It also is from the Ebony magazine, but the images you just saw and that beautiful woman, I printed those images out on silk paper that I found from the thrift store. And here I'm using my book board. I didn't mention this earlier, but this is not chipboard. This is that thick stuff. You need a industrial type cutter to cut this book board. I have applied acrylic paint using a baby wipe. It dries really fast, and yes, the baby wipe came directly from the package. It was still damp and wet. After you have arranged your images the way you like, I'm using my favorite glue stick. I'm using that to adhere some of the images down. This stuff can be a bit messy. It can tear your images, so you want to be careful. And I'm just using my hands to press it into place. And I'm cutting some of my phrases up. I love that phrase, the beautiful bronzes. The great thing about the Ebony magazine, it was geared towards African Americans, and so a lot of the products in the magazine were for African Americans. And finding the right hue, the right color of makeup back when I was growing up was really difficult. This makeup was by Fashion Fair, and I believe to this date they still offer Fashion Fair makeup for African American women. My aunt, she was a believer in that stuff, and that's what she wore. And so the glue, well, it caused part of my word to tear off, but I just adhered it all together. And I'm using Fun Stamper's Journey ink, and I'm adding a background to my board. And after I do that, I'll layer my other images, and I'm also stamping directly on some images. I will take a baby wipe, and because I don't want that ink there, and the baby wipe, well, it removes the ink, but it tints that clipping there. And so I'm using the ink pad or the glue stick, and she is so adorable. I love it. And I'm using a squeegee just to smooth out any wrinkles. And I'll come back to that board a little later. This will be the front of my book board. And let me tell you, this image here, I shared a special journal I made for Lisa Scrapping Like a Lady here on YouTube. And I used that image for her cover. And let me tell you, I am so in love with that image. I waited to make my own journal because I needed to find another one of those images. So happy I did. This image of this man, let me tell you, they don't make men like this anymore. He is so cool, so comfortable in his own skin, no tattoos, no earrings in the ear, right? In the nose. He is just confident, and she is holding on for dear life. And she better, because they don't make men like this anymore. He is super handsome. I took a lot of time into finding the right images that spoke to me, because this journal will be special. I think if the covers are special and meaningful, perhaps I will want to work in this journal. So I took a lot of time to get those images that really spoke to my heart. Here you see I'm using a very strong glue. It's a bookbinding glue. When I first started crafting in 2004, I purchased a gallon of this stuff. Of course, I threw it out last year because I had it too long. This stuff is the strongest glue, in my opinion, on the market. So I wanted to try out different types of glue, and I'm using a baby wipe once again to clean up any excess glue. And of course, using the squeegee board to smooth out any wrinkles, and I'm going back adding more glue where I need to. It's coming together and looking really good. After I finished this journal, I just stared at it. This morning I woke up and just stared at it. Okay, so I'm using another baby wipe, and I'm applying Distress ink just to add some color. I need to mess this up a little bit. I want this to look vintage, and I like what the Distress ink affords. Okay, so you see these sticky dots. At random, I will apply some sticky dots, and then I will use my scrap foil pieces to layer down some foil. Just a cool way to add extra dimension to your covers. And there you saw me use a applicator to pick up some glue. I recently shared that tip in that video, how you can maximize your whole glue stick with those micro brushes. And here I've taken a baby wipe again with acrylic paint, and I just want to grunge this up a little bit. I like that messy look, not too messy. I still want to read my phrases and read some of the clippings, but I do want to mess it up a bit. Okay, so here I finished this board pretty much, but I wanted to show you how I applied that silk down. Part of it I used the glue stick, and the other part I used the sticky dot paper, and I'm just adding some foil here. Okay, so you see the front of my cover. I think I'm done, but I might add some more texture. I'm not too sure. And I love on the other side of this board how I've added the foil to the woman's fro. I just love that. And all the things that I used growing up and still use. The Noxzema, the Ambi, the Royal Crown. Never wore this makeup, but my aunt wore it. And I just love this journal. It turned out, journal covers. It turned out so beautiful. And I want to thank you all for watching. Blessings.